Bold TV.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies. Our online viewers. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Bold TV. Beautiful, outstanding ladies with disabilities. The program is being powered by Bold Heart Initiative, where we discuss on disability matters, but we focus on women with disabilities. We are here to educate ourselves and the public when it comes to issues around disabilities. I'm sure if you enjoy this woman, you can call on the ladies, the co-hosts. And also, if you enjoy this program, we suggest for subscription. The program is on our YouTube channel, Facebook channel, and YouTube channel. So we ask for you to like, comment, and share so that others can also learn what we are discussing here and can also have a view on disability matters. Today we have an interesting topic that I would like us to really digest inside, because the program is something that people just know about it but don't have in-depth knowledge on it. And it's on accessibility regulations for persons with disabilities. So I'll just tell you, we're giving them access now, but it's not about giving you access or giving me access or creating that part or creating the ramp. It's all about being able to access it independently and to participate in whatever I want to do. So before I go deep, I would like the ladies in the house to introduce themselves. I'll start by myself, so we'll have a guidelines on how we can introduce ourselves. So I'm Osaki Teresa Georgie. I reside in Port Harcourt. I'm a freelancer and a farmer. I'm a polo warrior.
Good morning. My name is Carol Akpoguma. I'm a businesswoman. I sell natural honey. I'm also a PWD accessibility advocate. I reside in Port Harcourt, precisely Obiakpo. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Sorry, your type of disability?
Visually impaired. Sorry about that.
Right. Thank you very much.
Good morning, lovely people out there. My name is Afiomitum. I'm a lab scientist. I work and live in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. And I'm a member of Bold Hearts Network.
Good morning, everyone, and our dear listeners. My name is Engineer Hannah Olaita. I work with the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities here in Abuja. I work and I live in Abuja. Great to be in your midst, and I wish we have a fruitful discussion. Thank you for having me.
Okay, just to inform the house, Anna is not with a disability. So she's just here with us to share the program.
Hi everyone, my name is Reki Andrew Essien, the ED of Faker Foundation and a member of Bold Hearts Initiative, public health professional, disability inclusion strategist, among other things. I'm based in Port Harcourt in River State, currently with you from Abuja. Nice to be here, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, my co-host and my guest speaker. So today we'll just dive into the topic seriously. Back to the topic, it says accessibility regulations for persons with disabilities. Like what I said earlier on, people don't understand when it comes to accessibility. It's not for persons with disabilities. They just feel that I've created a path, I've done a ramp, I've done staircase. They can enter. Can they enter? And is there no space for them? No. The point is that there's a universal design. There's something that we call universal. That's something special. You don't just create a path for one to get into the building or be able to access the place. The point is that whoever is entering that place, with or with a disability, should be able to enter independently and participate fully without any interruption. So I'll start my question so that we can go around and discuss what we're going to talk more on today. When you hear universal design principles, and I would like to start with my guest speaker, Hannah, to just give us an insight of universal design principles for persons with disabilities. Hannah, please help us out.
Okay, good morning again. And nice having me on this program. When we are talking about universal design principle, it's not only meant for persons with disabilities. When you hear the word universal, that means it is generally widely acceptable wherever man can be found, whether you are a white person or black or Asian, whatever tribe, whatever race you may be. Universal design principle applies to all. And when you are talking about universal design principles, these are the principles that are used, that are considered when design products, services, and the way people relate together. When you talk about universal design principles, it doesn't focus on one particular or category of people. As I have rightly said, it is meant for human beings, whether the young, the youth, or the adults. So in the universal design principles, this focus on some things that make it to be universally acceptable. The thing that these principles can be adopted in Nigeria, can be adopted outside the country. It can be adopted by the babies, it can be adopted by the older ones. And part of these principles include equitable use. When you're talking about universal design principles, one of the principles, as I've rightly said, is equitable use. Equitable use means when everybody has equal access, you can use it no matter your level or status. You have access to it, you can use it. Let's take, for example, these are mobile phones that we are using. It is designed universally. That's the principle of universal design. A baby, you see toddlers, they carrying phones, they play games on it. You see adults carrying the same phone, do some other things on it. You see persons with disabilities, the blind carry the phones, the Android phones, they carry it, they have access to it, they can use it because these phones are universally designed. The principles that were used are part of the principles of universal design. Another one is flexibility. Flexibility means that, as I've given us the example, that any range of person can use it. It is flexible to people with low dexterity. They can still carry it and manage to raise it and use it. You can use it for phone calls. You can use it to make transactions. You can use it for meetings. You can use it for games. It is flexible to every situation you want to use it for. Part of this principle is that it is simple. It is simple to use. You don't need big manner. You don't need to study big manner. When you take any device that is universally designed, you see that within few minutes you get used to it, even though you've not been using it before. And that's why we'll be clamoring for this. That in inclusion, that everybody has been preaching in this country today, that we need to include persons with disabilities in all our spheres of life. When you base any design, any program, any product, any services on universal design principle, you see that whether you thought of them when they are there or not, once you focus on universal design principle, these people will be able to have access to it to use.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Okay, because she has really expanded on the universal design principles, and that's really a long elaboration of how it should be, not just assessing, but whatever you're doing, whatever we can all lay our hands on, is what everybody will be able to use with ease.
All right, but there's something that I think that we should do with respect to when we talk about accessibility. And I just want to lay a background so that somebody can probably understand where we are going to with this. And Hannah has done an amazing job. There are actually 7 principles of universal design, and she was able to run us through the many that she did with the time she was given. But by way of an explanation, when it comes to accessibility for persons with disabilities, the consideration is that it is a major pillar for disability inclusion. And that is why we are having the conversation today. Accessibility is not disability inclusion, but just an aspect of disability inclusion, as it were. Emphasis being on persons with disabilities. And like Osaki said, not just for the physical environment. One of the things that we push for are 2 aspects of accessibility. And that is one which is spoken to, which is universal design. And universal design is considered when you want to pick up, or you want to plan, or you want to innovate, or you want to structure a thing for everyone. So from the beginnings of the formation, the manufacturing of that product or that service, you think about accessibility for all. For instance, you're using a smartphone and you want to produce that smartphone. You need to produce that smartphone in a way that everybody can have access of that phone. But when it comes to accessibility, it's a pillar of disability inclusion. And then there are 2 main aspects when it comes to disability and accessibility. And the first part is what Hannah spoke to, which is universal design. And then she has spoken to the principles of universal design. And in explaining, we've said that universal design, when it comes to accessibility for persons with disabilities, it really has to do with the beginnings of a product or a service or a program. At the start point, think of it to be accessible for everyone. The second part, because I've said that we are jumping to talking about the physical environment, and I need to mention this, is reasonable accommodation, because there are two aspects to accessibility. We can't talk about accessibility for persons with disabilities without these two core aspects: reasonable accommodation. Why am I bringing this up? Because it's already an existing service. There's already an existing building, or you understand that you want to create accessibility for a person with disabilities. So you work with that person to ensure that some provision is made to reasonably accommodate that person to be productive in that space. So I really needed to lay this background so that when we come to the actual regulations and laws available when it comes to accessibility, we'll be able to have a better understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Frankie. You really digest on the physical accessibility of what we really need. Afyang, do you have more?
Physical accessibility would refer to essentially ensuring that the environment does not have structural barriers that prevent a person with disability. And this specifically, would affect people who have some form of mobility impairment, but even people with visual impairment can also experience difficulties when it comes to physical accessibility. Let's say, for example, a person with a wheelchair goes to a particular building and there are no ramps, or maybe the ramps that have been created are not, make it difficult for the person to, access the building. Or sometimes you go to a building that has many stories, the person is going to above the ground floor and there are no elevators, only stairs. And so this makes it difficult. So physical accessibility takes into account, the design of physical structures in a manner that ensures that anybody, in line with the universal design principles, anybody, regardless of their type of disability, or even those who may not have a disability, can have access to physical structures. And this is, something that unfortunately is not very well entrenched in our society, because more often than not, you find that so many physical structures are not accessible and makes it difficult. And so this limits the participation of persons with disability. It disenfranchises them, disempowers them, and does not limit the opportunities they have access to. Thank you.
Florence, what's your take on physical accessibility for persons with disabilities? Barrister Florence, go ahead.
So when it comes to physical accessibility, most often people just consider, okay, let's have a ramp here, let's have this. But it's beyond just the outer environment, or even the buildings, the doors, the entrances, all the features of an environment should be considered when looking at physical accessibility. Just like the disabilities varies, there are persons with disabilities who may really need ramps. There are also persons with disabilities who could do even better with staircase than ramps. There are also persons with disabilities. Then the issue of elevators. But we look at even beyond the environment, the building itself. Even our walkways, are they accessible?
So you've spoken to the fact that when it comes to physical accessibility, that physical accessibility and the considerations for accessibility in the physical environment should never just end at just ramps, and sometimes ramps that are not built to specification. So somebody will be wondering if accessibility for persons with disabilities is only limited to the physical environment. The answer is no.
Yes. So when we talk about even the walkways, for instance, in Abuja now, you see that most of the walkways have been turned to marketplaces, and for a person with mobility issues, it will be very difficult to navigate. The walkways have been turned to parking spaces. That's the pedestrian walkways. So we have to look at that. We have to even look at the crossing, the pedestrian crossing, what do they call the bridges, the pedestrian bridges, and all of that constitute issues of accessibility of the physical environment. Then,
okay.
I like I mentioned earlier, issues around the building itself. Are the doors accessible? The entrances to the buildings, are they accessible? Even inside the building, is everything accessible? We have to look at all of that.
Awesome. So I think we've done quite a bit with the physical environment. Of course, there's a lot that has to be said. But to round up accessibility of the physical environment, as I hand back to Osaki, because like I said, when it comes to accessibility, it's not limited to just the physical environment. We have issues of accessibility when it comes to information and communication. And we have issues of accessibility also when it comes to transportation. There is a very wide conversation when it comes to issues of accessibility. But speaking about the physical accessibility, one thing, when you think of accessibility for persons with disabilities, I think anybody who is out there listening should think about not just access, but when a person with disability accesses your space, that person should be able to use that space. That person should be able to move around that space. And that person should be able to exit that space. So it's not just about entry, because we've seen where people focus on the entryway and then the rest of the entire physical building is not accessible. So think about the usability of the space. You think about the usability of the physical environment from entry to exit. So let's wrap up there. Osaki, I'm sure you're back with us. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Our next question goes on sensory considerations. So I need Carol to pay more attention on this. That what are the sensory considerations when creating accessibility for persons with disabilities? You know, there's some things that people just ignore. You just feel that anyhow they can manage, and we have some persons that even though you've created a path, they still need some further aid for them to be able to access. Like as Frank earlier said, it's not just entering, but be able to use everything concerning the place you want to enter, or the object or the services. So I'd like Carol to tell us on the sensory consideration when it comes to accessibility for PWD.
Yeah, thank you, Osaki, and good morning once again, ladies. We're talking about the sensory accessibility. What comes to mind? First of all, we are talking about your senses, and these include your visual and your auditory. And when you're talking about your visual and your auditory, what you also brings to mind, you're talking about your tactile signage, your color separation, and your loop age, your hearing loop age that will help you to hear. Okay, when you're looking at all these things put together, you are talking about accessibility concerning the visual person. Okay, let's give an example of a visual person want to go into a elevator. That's a lift. If there's nobody that you should be able to access that place by your finger, your hand touch the wall, you're able to feel. When you feel it, you know, yes, this is the switch button. You press it, you're able to enter. When you enter, they should be able to do something like note voice. You'll be able to direct you. Say yes, this is first floor, second floor, third floor, without needing anybody to assist you to that. You should be able to do it yourself. That is called the independent aspect of it. Then again, the other part again, like a visual person also, if you are in the house, in the building, some of them have low vision. Some of them, you know, with the rays of light, if you paint the wall completely white, somebody with an albino or low vision will not be able to separate where the light switch is, where the starts, how you can press the button, or what you can do. You will not be able to do. So based on that kind of person, what you do when you are painting the environment or the house, you use color separation to be able to separate it. So maybe you're painting the house white, maybe the switch should be able to be black, so that anybody can be able to see it. Can you know now this is the switch? You can be able to work, use it. And again, the look like somebody who having hearing issues, without, you should be able to use it to help the person to hear, without aid of anybody telling you, okay, pushing the person here, this, trying to hear. Otherwise, without aids, look aids, the person can be able to use it and hear what's happening around, to see what's happening around. Thank you.
So I believe you have been able to hit your point when it comes to accessibility, sensory consideration for accessibility. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. There's a lot more to say. The topic is a bit broad, so we'll try to narrow it down as much as possible, because there are so many considerations when it comes to issues around accessibility. So let me bring it back to the topic, regulations. Hannah, we have regulations that guide, issues around disability. And just speak to one of those tools, and keep it brief, that address issues around accessibility and probably what it may say. Just one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning once again. This issue of accessibility is very timely when we are talking about the inclusion of persons with disability. And part of the people that spoke earlier said that you just see people when they hear accessibility, they think that it's just to provide ramps. And once there's a ramp in their environment, they tell you, our environment is accessible. But from what people have explained in time past, we see that accessibility is more than ramp. And
okay, so let's speak to Hannah. Please, let's speak to regulations that guide accessibility. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So for this, because of the discrepancies in issue of accessibility, the Commission for Persons with Disability, in collaboration with some stakeholders, came up, and relevant stakeholders, they came up to develop a document called National Accessibility Regulation. The full name of that document is Persons with Disability Accessibility Regulation. The document was dated in May last year, and it has became a legal framework that can be used. In this accessibility regulation, we have 5 chapters. The first chapter speaks to the objectives and the objectives of the document, the people that the document can be used, the people that can use the document. It speaks also to how the document can be used. Chapter 2 focused on the physical accessibility, as we have been told that physical accessibility is more than ramps. It discusses about the building, talks about our road transportation. That's part of physical accessibility also. Anything that you can see physically. In this road transportation, you see that most buses that people are using public transportation are not accessible to persons with disability. So this document is a guide to guide policy implementers on how to go about it when they are doing accessibility procedures. For the road transportation, it talks about the walkway for persons with disability, the dimension it has to be. It talks about different paths. It talks about different buses. It talks about everything you can thought of about road transportation.
All right.
Then chapter 4 speaks on the other parts of our environment, the special facilities. It talks about the toilet, our toilets also. This is one major thing that people have neglected. You see a fine building, it's fine structure, very accessible. And for persons with disability to use the restroom, it's very difficult because the entrances to the toilet are very narrow. The WC that is being installed are either too high or too low. The wash and things different things. So chapter 2 and 3 speaks to this. Chapter 4 speaks about the powers that was given to the Commission to enforce this. It talks about compliance and enforcement. The Commission has to go out to make sure, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, the CSO, the OPDs, they are to join the Commission in this, and other law enforcement agencies to see that public facilities are being accessible.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So Hannah is speaking about the accessibility standards document that was released by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. So as well known, the National Disability Act in its 5 years made a provision of a transitory period for all physical buildings to become more accessible. And so the National Commission, in ensuring that happens, has brought out the accessibility standards as a legal framework, as a document is gazetted to ensure that physical buildings are accessible. So if you need the document, you can write to us, boldheartsnetwork.info@gmail.com, and we can send it to you. Let me turn it over to the barrister in the house, Florence, to talk about some other regulations that guide issues around accessibilities for us in the country.
Nigeria, as a country, is a member of the United Nations, and we know that Nigeria is also a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. At the international level, we have the UNCRPD, which has provided regulations with respect to accessibility, which gives members who are signatories, member states like Nigeria who are signatories, to that law, to make laws regarding accessibility to ensure that persons with disability have access, which is now a human right, and that is at the international level. Also, Nigeria is also a signatory to the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the rights of persons with disabilities. That charter also provided a right to accessibility for persons with disabilities. And Nigeria, being a party member is assume that responsibility to ensure that persons with disability have full accessibility in all regards, just like we have mentioned earlier, what physical, what issues with respect to communication. And this is really a strong pillar when it comes to inclusion, because almost every right depends on accessibility. Are you talking about access to education? If it is not accessible, like both the physical structure and the procedure is not accessible, there is no how persons with disabilities can enjoy that right to education. When it comes to rights to health, most of these rights are also hinged on that access, right on accessibility. Then in Nigeria, in order to domesticate and to have full effect to this right, to domesticate these laws, these international laws that the Nigerian government has ratified, Nigeria has also enacted the Disability Act, that's the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act, which also has a provision on accessibility. Initially in the act gave stakeholders or provided a moratorium of 5 years for the implementation of that provision, which has passed already because it is past 5 years now since the enactment of that act. The law or the policy, it's more of a policy, I would say, that Hannah had already mentioned. That is like a policy or regulation to provide a framework on how this right to accessibility would be properly implemented in Nigeria, because the law itself did not, state out fully how the basics or the principles or the of this act that would ensure the implementation of this act. But the regulation, which Anna has mentioned, which Anna and I had the privilege of being part of the draft of that regulation, is also to help in the implementation of that right to accessibility.
All right, Florence, thank you very much. So, like I said, a very broad topic, which we will try to bring to you in better parts in different episodes of Bold TV. I'm going to hand over to Afyong so that she can round us up. But thank you very much. We've just been able in this short time to bring to you what accessibility is, what it means for disability inclusion. We've also been able to speak about universal design principles, chip in the importance of reasonable accommodation for accessibility in Nigeria. We spoke a bit about the considerations for the physical environment as well as issues around sensory considerations for accessibility. And finally, we hit on some of the regulations that speak for accessibility for persons with disabilities in our country. Again, if you need copies of these documents, write to us, boldheartsnetwork.info@gmail.com. We'll make available the short form summary versions of the United Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability Certificate, summary versions of the Disability Act Certificate, and we'll also make available for you, if you need it, the accessibility standards of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Afyong, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I'm just going to ask everybody to just give less than 15 seconds. Just tell us your closing statement regarding accessibility and the design of the environment for persons with disabilities.
Well, my take to everyone of us here that it should be made, everyone should be able to access everything, both the disability ones and the ones and every other person. Let me just put it rightly like this. It should be made accessible for all. Accessibility should be made for all. That's my take. Thank you very much.
The persons with disability mantra that says leaving no one behind can actually be achieved when we make everything, every product, every services accessible to everyone, including persons with disability.
Okay, accessibility is a human right for persons with disabilities, and if you breach that right, a person with disability may have no option than to pursue a cause and ensure that they get remedy for the breach of that right.
My closing statement is accessibility is everybody's business. That's my statement. It's everybody's business. If you can enter today, what about tomorrow? So it's everybody's business. Thank you.
Okay, so my closing or parting shot would be this. Issues around accessibilities, do not think of it as cumbersome. It's possible. Thank you very much.
And for me, before I hand over to Osaki to, close us, I'd just like to say that when it comes to accessibility, do what you can in your own space. Don't think about saving the whole world. Start with where you are. Whatever you can do within your own space to ensure that this is done. Let's not just wait for government. 5 years has come and gone. Do what you can in your own space, whether by advocacy, speaking up, whatever it is. Do what you can and you will make a difference. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much to all the ladies here who have contributed so well to this discussion. Like we've said, this is a very wide, and the scope of this discussion is much wider than we can handle within the time frame we have. So we look forward to, tackling the individual parts of it in future episodes. I want to say thank you to our online audience for always being there. Thank you for always, watching our videos. I would also like to solicit that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, share all our videos far and wide. Somebody needs to hear it. We can't make the change we want to make if we do not, get other people to join us. We need partnerships and collaborations. And we ask that you partner with us by helping us to spread the message far and wide. So ladies, thank you so much. Until we come your way next week, Saturday, 10:30 a.m. It's been the beautiful women here on Gold TV. And so we are going to unmute our microphones and just say goodbye.
Bye.
So, bye people. So we see you again. All
See
right.
ya. Bye.
This is Bold TV.